everybody, Ryan here from Music City Live. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Bill Durst. Bill is a singer-songwriter, performer, guitar player from Thundermug, and all-around amazing guy. Bill, thanks so much for coming on.
It's my great pleasure, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So there's a bunch of things I want to say. First off, my dad and me both think that you're one of the best guitar players in the country for sure. Oh. And I'll get into it later about kind of your sound and stuff like that. But what you do with the guitar is really cool, man.
Oh, thank you, Ryan.
And and we've known each other for a little while. You know my dad a little longer.
Yep.
My first time working with you guys was in a field somewhere north of town for a festival called Weedstock.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
It was Jim Shaw and me, and we drove up there in a 24-foot truck with a bunch of gear, and it was a huge rally, biker rally or something. And there was people that had souped up big rigs, and it was, at my age at that time, I don't know how old I was, but I was definitely in my teenage years for sure.
Yeah.
And it was a wild experience, but I had so much fun doing that show.
Right on.
Yeah. Man.
Those were great shows. It was just, it was the kind of rebellious, legalized marijuana kind of thing. And too bad for the police, but we're all going to gather here and do illegal things.
It was wild, and everybody was so positive, and it was having a great time.
Oh, yeah.
And they had little bonfires set up, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. Definitely, initially going there, I don't know what I expected because I'd never been to anything like that before, but when I got there, it was like there was a huge sense of community. Like it was unbelievable. It was great.
Yeah. That's there was a lot of bonding going over because of the marijuana prohibition. Years and years of nonsense, craziness in this country, and people had enough. And that was a while ago now, was it not? In the 90s for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. In the 90s for sure.
And yeah, that was the energy that came out of that time period was responsible ultimately for the legalization of marijuana. So it was a good cause.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was going to say, no longer, and it's legalized now, and even in some U.S. states too.
Yeah,
and they're pushing more and more for it down there. Yeah. So there you go. So early days for you, what does that look like? How did you get into music?
I was when I was 5 years old, my uncle, who was in the Navy, gave me a bosun's whistle. Do you know what that is? It's just
I do not.
It's like a tin whistle. It's about this long.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've seen it. Yeah,
guys. There'll be some of the crew on that. When the captain comes on the ship, they pipe him aboard, and that's the bosun's whistle.
Okay.
Those, high end things. And the thing about for a 5-year-old about the bosun's whistle was that if you blew softly, it had a low note.
Oh, really?
If you blew hard, it had a high note. So I was lying on my parents' bed when I was 5 making up melodies with this bosun's whistle. And I was lucky to have a musical family too. My mom played the piano and sang, and her sister, my aunt, also was a very good piano player and teacher, and also an artist as well, painter. So I had these influences when I was a kid, and piano lessons, the regular thing, and really I got bit by music. I got bit by performing when I was 9. I saw a movie that starred Larry Parks, and it was called The Jolson Story.
Okay, yeah.
And Jolson's a controversial figure because of the racism and things, but I got hooked on singing and trying to sound like Al Jolson when I was 5 or 9 years old. And then, though, of course, typical story, summer of '63, but she loves you, yeah. It came on, and it was like drug.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was a rush. It was a physical rush to listen to that on the radio.
Wow.
It was amazing. I think it was because it was such a contrast to the music that was around it, which was very, middle of the road, very, El Martino, and nothing wrong with El Martino if that's a guy, but singers like that.
Was it, would proper be the word? Like it was more sort of proper?
I think dead would be the word.
Dead?
Yeah, it was dead music for a generation of people who seemed to probably be in an alcoholic haze most of the day. That's what it felt like anyway. The contrast felt like.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
And then all of a sudden life and flowers and balloons and things. It was, and
so it was definitely neat. Sounds like it was needed at that time.
it was unbelievably outrageous, spontaneously perfect timing.
Wow.
For a generation.
Hey, has that ever happened again, do you think?
No.
No,
No. And we can get into why that is too. So my aunt had given me a ukulele for graduating grade 7 or something. Man, I ran and I got that thing and, figured out 3 chords, and then I knew every Beatles song, I thought. And my friend, we had a little group when I was in grade 8.
Okay.
And we had 2 ukuleles. And I had one a set of actual bongos at the Toronto X, tossing dimes. Just got really lucky, and so we used those with Spoons, the drummer.
Yeah.
And performed at the graduation for grade 8 and all that kind of stuff.
And was that here in town?
Yes, it was at Mountsfield Public School in London, Ontario. Yes, it was. That's where I went. And then things progressed rather quickly. I just wanted to give a shout out to Dominic Troiano. Do you know?
No.
He's the guitar player for the Mandela.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a kind of psychedelic soul group from Toronto.
Yeah, I saw you put them in the list of people that you guys had worked with.
Yeah, and precisely here's why. Now, Dominic Troiano was a world-class guitar player doing things that nobody had ever seen before.
Oh, really?
Seriously speaking, he knew tricks. He could play amazingly. He was just amazing. And I got invited to my friend John Zaslow, who's a musician around town, John. Yeah. And he, his girlfriend couldn't go to this gig, right? So he invited me, and it was the Birds.
Oh wow!
With David Crosby, the original Birds, and a group from Toronto called the Five Rogues, which were to become the Mandela. Man. The way the Five Rogues did their stuff, like everybody was extraordinary. Whitey Glenn was the drummer that played with Wilcox.
Yeah. And
so he came on first by himself.
Oh, really?
And he just played this beat that nobody could believe it. And then on came the bass player, and he played amazingly. Now you have the rhythm section on the stage. Then the keyboard player came on, and he played a solo over top of them. And then they introduced the guitar player. And when the guitar player came on, everything stopped. And the guitar player played one screaming note. And it was the guitar. It was screaming, man. It was fucking screaming. And it was like, I'm 14 years old. I'm in the audience. And I get a rush up my spine.
Wow.
And I'm going to do that. That's it. That's what I'm doing.
Wow.
Just like that. Years later, Dominic Troiano was the last guitar player in the Guess Who. And his producer was Jack Richardson, and I was doing an album with Jack Richardson. And Dominic was there. And I had met him in the old days, but, didn't stay in touch or anything.
Sure.
And then, so there's Jack saying to to Dominic, Billy tells me that you're responsible for him being in the music business. And Dom trying to jump back, and he says, "Don't hit me.
No.
Don't hit me." What a great moment it was.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's so beautiful. Anyway, so then, that was it. And then a year later, I was in a band who the son of the largest agent in town was also in that band. And we practiced in the agent's basement. There's a little handiness there, eh?
Yeah, no
Lucky
doubt.
me. And there we are opening for Peter and Gordon at a large arena. And
Wow. The great opportunity early on.
yeah, it's closest I ever got to the Beatles, meeting Peter Asher. McCartney had been living in his house a year before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so then the next thing you want to do is be in an original band. In the meantime, there's Jimi Hendrix's first album.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that must have been a crazy time.
I got a great story. No, this is the times, and this is one thing I wanted to get across. The 60s, the middle, late 60s, and early 70s were not as now at all. At all. Yeah, it was
explain.
It was a spontaneous time. It was a time where you could get a band together and play, and if people liked it, the next time you played, it would be packed. It was an amazing stuff happened to the Thundermug band once we got going. And I think a lot of it was a lack of business, of capitalism, frankly, in the art.
Oh, really?
It was a lack of capitalism in art.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, because then the spontaneous factor was involved in that.
Well, it's funny you say that. Like I on the last episode we just did, I had a guy from Toronto, Patrick Duffy, who's originally from London too. He's a graphic artist, does a lot of artwork for people.
Yeah, that really rings a bell.
And Patrick and me talked about that, about, like he told a story about how he was working with Susan Glukark on her album cover, and they wanted him to do an album cover where she was smiling.
Right.
And he said to them, well, the album is dark. Like, it's a dark album. She's writing about alcoholism on the reserves. And he goes, have you listened to this? And he fought them. He said he fought them, and they screamed for half an hour straight until she finally said, well, you know what? I kind of agree with Patrick.
The artist, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, in the end, he got the cover he wanted, and it ended up, it was the first, he's won 9 CCMA awards for his work doing graphics. That was his first CCMA award, was that album cover. So who knew, right? But in the, but this is the thing. So to what you're saying, once that sort of capitalist sort of situation gets involved in the art, sometimes it can go off the rails,
Easily can go off the rails. There's so many examples of that. Another thing about the 60s and all was that it was a time of advancing technology, but it was all analog technology. It was all stuff you did. It was physical.
Yeah, you were recording on tape and stuff probably.
Well, I don't mean necessarily that, but I meant like the first Thundermug album was the first album to be done with spray paint. Like, spray paint, like that style of drawing, stuff like that. It doesn't sound very important, except that you think about what's going on now with the technology is now you have an app that you can use spray paint with.
Yeah, or what we talked about with Patrick last night that he's terrified of, which is the factor of AI, right? Artificial intelligence. And now kids are just downloading an app, telling the app what to make, and it's just making it. And so that there is no real art behind it now. I mean, I guess if you think that, the thought of what you want to create is the art, I suppose, but actually creating it, to me, yourself is the art, is the human going into the art, right? And that's not happening with that technology. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah. But in the old days, they had paint by numbers.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Well, it's paint by numbers. But, oh, okay. All right. But, you know, it's kind of a thing people always do, I think. So I found myself when I was in London when I was 16, 17, playing with in the band I mentioned that had the agent in it.
Yes.
Agent's son, Lorne Whitby, was also Ed Pranskus. He was the drummer.
Oh.
And so that's when I first played with Ed.
Okay.
And I had met him before that. And then Ed migrated to the big band, the big horn band in town, because it was all rhythm and blues, and which had like 4 horn players.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, and a bass player named Jim Corbett in that band.
Yeah.
So then that 3-piece in that band was the 3-piece from the future Thundermug. And then that band broke up, and it was like, what should we do? And we'd already been doing, you know, in the old days, the rhythm, it was like a show, right? So we would start the show with just the 3-piece. And we'd probably do a Hendrix song or something.
Okay.
Right? And then bring in the organ, the same deal as the Mandela, kind of in a mutated way. And not as spectacular, but... So we were already doing that stuff. So we just went, no, we got to mutate. We're moving on to we're rocking out. And in '69, Zep 1 came out, and it's like, you know, my God, you know, okay, come on. It's also kind of bluesy. There's the rhythm's different, but the blues part's there.
Yeah.
So let's go. And so we became known as the loudest band in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Which had its pros and cons.
Louder than April Wine?
Louder than April Wine. Let me think. Well, I don't know. I know that April Wine played at the Centennial Hall. I was there because I saw them. The original lineup too, Jim Clinch on the bass. And I know that we played there, and the reviews were all about the volume.
Okay.
So I would say yes.
Yeah. Well, I only say that because, and I was going to bring it up later, but I'll bring it up now. When I was a kid, again, I was working in the 90s. I was working with April Wine, and we did a show. We did a show in Chatham, and it was outdoors in the little band shell there, and they blew all the horns in the PA. Ooh. They were so loud, and it was crazy to me that it was, and I think it was Kim Mitchell or someone who's playing the next night. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was playing the next night, and then we had to get there. We stayed at the hotel overnight, and then early in the morning we had to roll in there with drills and take the back of the speakers apart and change all the diaphragms. But that wasn't even the interesting thing. The interesting thing was when we set up the monitor rig, and this happened a few times after that. I got used to knowing about it. But at that time, Miles needed 2 monitors in the front, 2 monitors in the back, and side fills just for him. And that blew my mind because, you know, at that point I had done shows here in town at the NAC. Shout out to John and Siva. They gave me an opportunity as a real young kid to do a lot of shows there, doing lighting and stuff. And
nice. And
so I had worked with, we did Lenny Kravitz there. We did Usher and NSYNC and all these acts there that we did, and the Cracker and Watchmen and Matt Good Band. And sometimes we would just have 1 monitor per singer, per player.
It's usually the
so
way it goes, isn't it?
for us to set up 4 wedges for Miles, plus the sidewash, blew my mind. And at the time of, I'm a young kid, I'm like, does he really need all that? And the guys that I was working with were, 2 and 3 times my age. They're like, yeah, wait. And, the sound check would start off and it would just be, just ripping. And the PA is off. Like the PA is off and it's just the monitors, right? They're just getting the monitors right. And it was mind blowing to me as a kid that he needed the monitors to be
really
that
just
loud.
to hear it.
Just to hear
it. Honestly.
And years later, we worked with him again. Years and years later, or at least I worked with him again. And at that point, I believe they were on in-ears. And it was like, yeah, it got so bad. His hearing got so bad to the point where if he wasn't on in-ears, like we don't know, like you couldn't do a show. Like the monitors were just so loud that you can't function. Like it's just crazy. So thank God for in-ear technology.
Yeah, but we weren't that loud. But we were grossly loud for the time, and grossly louder than the PA system.
Well, there you go. And that could
standard
be,
for the day,
and
too.
that could be it. That for that time, that could be it. Because I've seen that before too, where we did a Big Sugar concert back in the 90s. We did a Big Sugar concert in Harris Park, and London has a bylaw where they come out and they measure, and the guy was measuring the sound during sound check, and he ran up to the soundboard and says, "You got to turn it down. You're way over." And our sound man at the time, Jim, looks at the guy and he without missing a beat, he puts his finger on the console on the master fader and he goes, "It's off." And the guy just went white. I was standing there programming the lights for the show for that night, and the guy just went white. And he was a young kid,
But it's his job, right?
And he goes, "What do you mean?" And Jim's like, "The PA's off. That's just his guitar amp." He goes, "You better just go home." So the band being loud, having a loud stage volume for the PA, I've seen it. And
he's grossly loud. That I must admit, he's a bit too loud.
And that amp head, speaking of which, that amp head behind you there, that Marshall behind you, that was his.
Oh, cool.
That was his.
Did you take it away from him because he was too loud?
No. John Angus from the Trues actually sold that to me.
Sweet.
And it was gifted to him, as I come to understand, from Gordy.
Wow.
And it's funny because that amp, back when I used to work with Big Sugar back in those days in the 90s, I have some photos. That was one of the amps in his main rig.
Wow.
So yeah, anyway, there you go.
Those are great stories. That's great. And honestly, I think that pretty much nails it for the old days. It was the guitar amplifiers, just the technology just went nuts on them before it went nuts on the PAs. And then the PAs that they had, I mean, butterfly bins and just, fine, but that was brand new. When it was new technology, I mean, it was all blown away. There was one band, though, there's always the exception. I went and saw Ian Thomas at the Gasworks once in the fairly old days, and it sounded like a record.
Wow.
I went, what on earth? Oh, my God, jealousy abounding. And it was the sound man, who years later I got to work with him, which was great. But he just had the ears. And that
was a thing back then.
They didn't have a guitar player that was like way too loud or anything like that.
Oh, that helps.
No, it helps a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We get a cooperative guitar player. It's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When everybody cooperates, it's a good thing.
Well, there you go.
Because then you can shape the sound the way you need to for the room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just reflection off the room.
Yeah, it's too much, isn't it? It's a very, these constant problems. But it was a problem. It was very standard in the old days. If a guy had a Marshall stack or something big, there weren't too many PAs that could really keep up with that. Poor singers. Singers suffered pretty good in the old days.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that's true.
Oh, right? They did. Yeah, Joe blew his voice out frequently. He was like trying to yell above it, really, right in the mic, so what are you going to do? Just trying to get heard. Yeah, it sounds gross now. It sounds like, well, what was wrong with you guys? Well, we didn't know, kind of. We weren't worried about the PA so much as we worried about the sound of the band overall and the songs and writing and all like that.
What style of music would you say that you guys
Thundermug?
Yeah, were at that time.
The first album was Non-Capitalist.
Okay. The non-capitalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the art album. That was when it was, that part of us should have been left alone. But we didn't have people around us that understood that. And we were too young to, be, and scared to go, F you. Because who had a record contract in those days, you know?
Sure.
And we managed to land one. So we couldn't then just say to the producer and owner of the record company, you know, F you. We did eventually.
Is that right?
Yes, we told him we wanted to produce the next record, finally. And I'll never forget it. We had just bought a really large bag of extraordinarily good marijuana in London and then drove down in the van. And when I wouldn't mention that except it was extraordinarily good and we weren't really ready for it. But I remember sitting on a couch, all of us sitting on a couch in a room with a pretty big gap, and then a desk and the producer at the desk.
It's almost like a scene out of a movie.
It is, well, it is.
There you go.
It truly is. And of course, I'm the one, I'm the mouth, I'm the guy, I'm the rebel. I'm the one, I'm going to say it. So I say to him the words that we want to produce the next album. And his face, man, just went from like red to redder to redder to redder to redder. And basically said, no. That's not going to happen. And then we parted ways.
Naturally.
Yeah. But he did, well, really the guy that was really the instrumental on the first Thundermug album was Terry Brown. He was the producer. He went on to produce Rush and many others. And it's a good thing he was engineering at the time. Mm-hmm. He had been the assistant. His hype was he had been the assistant engineer on the Mellow Yellow sessions with Donovan.
Oh, okay. Ooh. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Plus he had a, I believe it was a 16 track, which is a big deal. It was a big deal then.
For that time, yeah?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're moving into some pro stuff there, real good pro stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so yeah, the continuing story of what happened to that band, creatively, blah, in a creative sense, the producer kept telling us to write Beatles songs, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, that was his way of saying, like he thought that meant hits to us, right?
Interesting.
But it didn't.
No.
But it was awful. And so we kind of, we were not very pro-capitalist when I really think about it. We worked really, really hard at the art part. But the rest of it was like, what, really? You know? It probably sounds funny to modern ears, but we got invited up to, I should tell you I'll tell you 2 Rush stories.
Okay.
Because we did a little touring with Rush around Ontario. When we first played with them in London at the old London Arena, we were much better known than them. And so there was a debate about who should go on first.
Oh, my.
And it got heated. And our manager ended up booting Ray Daniels in the tender parts.
Oh, really?
Really. Yeah, it got very heated.
Wow.
But as you could well imagine, we went on first. So I believe it was their PA. Nobody was thinking. It was just a matter of that status.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is another, I'll tell another story about why Thundermug didn't like shoot to the top and is successful in the music business. I remember the three guys from Rush were hanging out underneath some scaffolding, like
Sure.
big rigging stuff. Right?
Yeah.
It's up there, and they're just hanging there. I don't know if there's a couple of cases were under there, just sitting there or whatever. And the four guys in Thundermug, we come strolling up. I think somebody probably said, "Why don't you go and meet them?" You know, oh, good idea. You know, like that's, you know. So we go there, and we don't know what to say to them because, in all truth, we're a competitive band to them. We're very competitive. We don't have any clue as to diplomatic behavior. we just like wrestlers or something. You know what I mean? And we come up to them,
funny.
and there's this moment where they're staring at us, and we're staring at them. And Ed Pranskus, God bless his soul, he goes, "Fly by night." It was dead silence and kind of like, what? And we're trying to stifle laughter because it was a joke, unfortunately, amongst us. And unfortunately, the guys in the band saw that. And it could have been turned easily into a compliment, but we didn't know what to do. And so I never said a word.
Oh,
Ed
wow.
said his fly by night. Nobody said a word. They didn't say anything. We didn't say anything.
Wow.
And then we just kind of tried to stifle laughter and walked away. Oh, fuck. And that's one reason why. Now, later I understood about diplomacy. I have some great diplomatic stories, of examples of supreme diplomacy amongst senior musicians, just gorgeous. But still, they didn't. We ended up playing with them a few more times, which is very gracious of Ray Daniels.
Ah.
You know,
And where were those shows? Because you were saying the one was in London. But
London, I think Kingston.
okay.
Brain is working hard.
Yeah.
They got a book. They phoned us at some point in the last decades or so, and to try and verify the Kingston gig. They knew of it, but where was it? They didn't have information for that. And I couldn't remember. I think it was at the university. Is there a Queen's University in Kingston?
Yeah.
I think it was there, but that kind of thing.
Wow.
But very, very, very gracious of them after our behavior, So then there was the rest of the Thundermug thing happened. We did go back into a period of real creativity. Joe left the band. He got squashed from record companies for leaving the band.
Oh, really?
You'll never get another contract. All this stuff. And because when you go on the road, that's when you find out really if you can really do this or not, right?
Yeah, if you can cut it.
Yeah, if you can stand it. If it's for you, maybe, if it's for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not for everybody.
Oh, damn, it is not. And people think, okay, this will be great fun, but it's not that much fun. It's a lot of work. A lot of times you're going against you're dragging yourself through it, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when you're younger, you don't know how to pace yourself for anything like that. I am basically a road hog now. I am. I mean, in 2017, Joe and I were away 106 days.
Wow.
We toured for 106 days, not all at once. Two 53-day tours.
Wow. Playing?
Yeah, for the last from 2010, where I was dragged out of the desk chair. I was coerced into playing a couple of festivals out west in 2010.
Yeah.
By a lady, Susie from Port Dover, and she had started one of the festivals, and she knew a guy who had started another one, and I was scared out of my tree.
Really?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I had got together the first record or album, The Great Woolly Mammoth was the first recording of what I would call that phase of my career. I don't know what to call it. I'm still in it, but it's the he didn't die of a heroin overdose or alcoholism or become a music agent phase of my career. You know, he kept playing.
Yeah.
What? You know, so that this phase that I'm in now, and so I was nervous because it's do or die. You know, I was putting I came in as the headliner of both festivals.
Oh, wow.
And the highest money they'd ever paid any act both times, which is also very fortunate to start that way. But I killed it. So it was good.
Yeah,
And it started off a whole roll of things out west, and I headlined several festivals out there, still do. And I've been touring out there since. So
is that the comeback that you were talking about?
I guess. I mean, in reality, Joe's older brother, Paul, passed away in 2003 at the age of 56. Shocked the hell out of us. He shouldn't have done that. But he did. And it shocked Joe. And Joe phoned me up and he just said, look, man, we've written hit songs. We should be writing because it's just life. And look what happened to Paul. And, you don't know. Right? Both our dads died at a young age. Joe's at 58, mine at 59. We didn't know. Now the older brother's gone at 56. Fuck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we just started writing. We didn't even know what we were doing. We just wanted to get really good at writing, just do it, really dedicated to it. We didn't know who was going to do our stuff. And that was in 2004. It started heavy, but by 2005, I had started, it was blues stuff. We were doing, the fuzzy little blues band wanted to do, and I had started playing. So there's an output. You could play the original songs there, and what else are you going to do? Oh, well, do some blues stuff. And all of a sudden, there was a blues society that was there paying attention, and it was a lovely time. All these blues festivals all over the prairies and all the rest, and and that was good too, because we did develop a style that was a blues rock style, and that was just great at these festivals, man, because we would be like a shock. We would be like, let's rock, because we're blues rock.
Yeah,
we are blues rock. That's what we do, and so that all went really well, and that's been I should really say, what a tremendous joy. I got to thank Cap Palmer, who was the agent in Winnipeg. Do you know Darren Morrison, my producer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I was sitting at Darren's, and damn, kick my ass for the memory of words, but there was a young man that was in a country duo with his girlfriend.
Okay.
Do you know who I'm talking about? Oh, damn, I just can't remember his name.
It'll come to us.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I love you, man. Even though I can't remember your name, he just looks at me and goes, I know an agent from Winnipeg. I think he might be interested in you.
Oh, are you talking about Aaron Allen?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because Aaron's a singer from town. Him and his wife, they're together. They do a duo.
A country thing?
Yeah.
Well, it could be him then.
Aaron Allen, probably.
Okay, Aaron Allen.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron Allen. We got to thank him. So I did get a hold of this agent.
Nice.
And then because this other lady wanted us to go out and play for 2 festivals, they were just a weekend apart, the agent got me another couple of gigs, and he came and watched me play. That was fun.
Yeah.
Him and his girlfriend sat and watched us play, both with sunglasses on. And this when we finished playing, this was their reaction. Sunglasses. Right? Yeah, okay. But they dug it, apparently.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know by the reaction.
He's been working with me for the last 15 years, but it's like you would not know. But at any rate,
that's cool.
Yeah, and he's done really good. I mean, we'll go out for a month, or say 28 days, we'll have 18 gigs.
Wow.
And we've been doing that heavy since 2011. And I needed a bass player in 2012. Joe said he'd sit in for a tour, and he's
still there.
It's
It's funny how that goes.
12, 13 years now.
Yeah.
And
It's a long sit-in.
yeah, it's a long sit-in. And great, though, because we have fun traveling, you know.
Well,
And-
that's all part of it, right? That's all part of the journey.
yeah, if you don't enjoy the countryside and traveling and all the rest of it, you know, it would just be awful. It would be dreary. But it's the opposite, really. It's just like, oh, open up. Hey, the drive across the lakehead, Lake Superior, that's one of the most beautiful drives there is.
Absolutely.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it doesn't matter what season. It's just beautiful. And I was afraid to go up in North Bay originally when the agent first talked to me. Would you play in North Bay? What month? November. Oh, I don't know, man. And then by the time we're through all these tours and stuff, we're driving in the mountains in snow in mountain passes in December. You know, so
I love it up there.
yeah.
My mom's from a small town up in Northern Ontario, and I've grown up going up there my whole life, and it's just phenomenal.
Isn't it wonderful?
You know, we call it God's country, and
Yes.
it really is.
Yes.
You know, our place that we inherited, my grandparents left us, is 36 miles from the closest hydro pole, cell signal, everything. And we've, you know, and it's on a spring-fed lake. It's just beautiful. And Darcy, who works here with me, you know, comes up every summer, and he's written some killer tunes there, like, because you're just
Nice.
off the grid. You know, there's
Yep.
no light pollution, there's nothing, and it's just pure nature everywhere.
Stars at night.
Like the best you've ever seen, ever. Because even the closest town is 36 miles, but it's a town of 1,100 people with one stoplight. So there's no light pollution.
Yeah, there's
the
no
closest
dome of light on
the closest major city is Sudbury, and Sudbury is almost 2 hours away.
Oh, you're perfect.
So you're in the middle of nowhere. It's dark. Like, you know, when you turn the generator off and the power goes out, you can stick your hand right in front of your face and you can't see it.
Wow.
It's that dark.
Wow.
And the coolest thing is, you know, like last summer, we went up there, me and my cousin, and I would take a chair and I'd go out on the end of the dock, and I would just sit there and look up at the stars. And sometimes I'd see things that just didn't make sense. I was like, wow, that's moving really fast, you know? But, you know, you see that up there. You see all kinds of stuff that, you know, when you're in the city, like I've lived in the city my whole life.
Sure.
And you go up there and just the nighttime skies, the clarity in the water, you know, you can see 40 feet down in the water like nothing. And it's all spring-fed lakes, right? So yeah, that whole region is incredible to travel, to see, to even stop and meet people. One of the guys that works with me here, Jeff Warder, taught at Fanshawe College for many, many years in the MIA program. He lives up there now. He's got a place up there in Bruce Mines.
Wow.
And and you know, got quite a bit of land and stuff, and
Sure.
he's got some chickens, and you know,
He's doing the thing. He's doing the survival. That's wonderful.
yeah. But I agree with you 100%. You got to enjoy the countryside. You got to enjoy that whole part of it, because it's part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to like people too. You know, I'll tell you, the people that I meet going out west, just extraordinary. Great story about Brian Schultz, my dear friend, who ran one of the original 2 festivals.
Okay, yeah.
Now he's a farmer, just fair bit from Edmonton, but that'd be the closest huge city there. And he's got the on his property is like a shed that I believe his father or his grandfather built, with the tools that they used are still in it.
Oh wow.
You know, he's got tractors and stuff, but he's got anyway. Nobody but his family's lived on that land. It's been his family since he came, but it's out west, so it sounds like really old, but it could be 1900 or the late 1880s. I don't actually know when they came, but that's the impression I got. Anyway, he's a wonderful man. So I'm in Ontario, and I'm going, oh, yeah, those Westerners, you know. Jesus. What's wrong with them and all this conservative stuff? And all, oh, God, Alberta, oh, God. And then, of course, he's there reading in the paper, oh yeah, you can't eat people from Ontario now because they're toxic. Because of where we live, you can't eat the flesh, of an Ontarian. It wouldn't be good for you, and they're all liberal, and I mean all that stuff. So we get together. And we find out, well, we like each other. There's something wrong here, right?
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute, I like you, and worse than that, now we've worked a few times together. I think I love you. You're a great guy. What's going on? And vice versa. And I remember being at another festival. He went to the other festival that I played. They're friends, and I remember him saying, hey, Bill's from Ontario, but he's all right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on right now. We're in a weird time, right? Where there's sort of these weird forces trying to create all this divisiveness in the world. And it's bizarre.
It's not weird forces.
Not weird forces?
No, it's the same old forces.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer. Who wins?
Yeah. Well,
Who wins?
They do.
Who's they?
Well, this is the question.
Oh, well, the answer is it's whoever benefits financially. And, the thing is, if you and I had $40 billion, or we were worth that much, and there are families in this country that are worth that much, we'd probably be up to exactly the same stuff.
Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
if we were elected and we were in Ottawa, we'd probably be up to similar stuff. There's forces at work in the society that appeal to destructive, unhealthy activities.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of forces like that. You've caught me now because my lifelong study is this.
Oh, really?
What we're talking about, yeah. Skipped school when I was 15. Skipped high school, South High School, skipped it, and went to the library all day.
Of all places to go when you skip school.
Yeah. All day to do research, to try and find out why the heck we live in a competitive society when clearly a cooperative society would be so much better. Clearly. Now, competition's fun, and people will always compete. But in the end, if we have a problem, let's get together the best and brightest on that problem. Not, oh, we can't do it because that corporation has rights over that person and they can't. And then there's all these problems, right? The competition, I thought it was pretty obvious, right? And so I have been studying this for a long time. It mutates. Again, you can't really. I just say if we're in a position of elites or heavily moneyed people, we would probably be thinking similarly. We probably would be. But there's something wrong. And what I've come to the conclusion lately, and I think it's really well illustrated by Israel right now, but it's illustrated by 1,000 other things. Trump, and there's cults. And we live in a society that's almost that is a cult that has cults in between it, within it. But you have to see the big cult to solve the problem. And I have been, my latest research is combining a lot of research on cults. And I'm just A-being it. I'm just going, okay, that's what's wrong. Here's the positive thing. Here's the negative thing. Let me compare that to capitalism. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to not have a pre-known result, I suspect heavily, though, that I'm going to find out that capitalism is a cult. I mean, the moment people go, well, the system's too big to change. There's something wrong with that. wait a minute, people built the system. Too big to change. I don't think so. Don't change it. Start another one over here.
Well, that's the thing. Like, during the pandemic, people wanted me to shut down. I mean, I couldn't shut down. My dad had to shut down. All events got shut down. Concerts got shut down. My dad blew almost his entire life savings just trying to keep the place going. And he did. And he kept it going. And now they're back and they're doing well again. But, they had no income for over 2 years. I kept things going. I had to lay some staff off. But, I delivered during that first lockdown we had here in Ontario. I delivered like close to 500 packages to people's doors in my car. In my car, and right down to a single pack of guitar strings. Like, I didn't make a dime on that pack of guitar strings, but I refused to shut down.
Kept it going.
I kept it going because I knew there had to be a way. And when people would talk to me about, the last 3 years, over time, I would tell people, I would say, find a way. Like you said, start something different. Do your own thing. Don't necessarily go with the crowd. Do your own thing. And that's what I was doing. I was aware of what was going on. I'm always aware of all sides of what's going on. You need to be aware.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you make your decisions based on strictly what is going on with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your journey is your journey. The consequences of your decisions are your own and no one else's. You have to own that. And so, and I've seen even recently with my father, he made some tough decisions. We've had some health stuff going on with some people in our family. And my dad made the decision to stick around and to not leave and go to Florida with the rest of the family for holidays and things like that. And that was big of him. I really look up to him for that because, he said, listen, man, I got to live with the decisions that I make. And right then and there, I just knew. I was like, yeah, all right, I get it. But there's a lot of people out there that just don't understand that it's your life and you got to make the right decisions. And a lot of them don't see what you're talking about. They just don't see any of that. And they just are blinded by politics, by propaganda, by people, by all kinds of things that they are basing their decisions on. And they're not listening to their gut. I mean, humans have this most incredible thing, right? And it's the gut-brain connection. And our bodies tell us all the time. I used to go out and eat food late at night after I'd play a gig. Real late, like, 2:30, 3, 4 in the morning.
Back too, you're hungry.
And, go to that place with the M on it. And, and about 10 minutes later, roughly, my gut would tell me that wasn't a good idea. Right. And I knew, and I was young and I didn't listen to it. Sure. And then I ended up at one point about 6 or so years ago, I was 300 pounds and I was having heart problems.
Sure.
My mom, I had a thing here one day. My mom had to take me and just get me checked out. Yeah. And my brother one day said, I'm worried about you. And I said, yeah, you know what? Yeah. And I promised them that I would, stop eating potato chips and I would change things. And I did. And got on a different lifestyle. And further to that now, that was 6 or so years ago. Further to that now, I haven't had caffeine. Herbal tea, but I haven't had caffeine in well over a year now. And
better.
It's been about 8 years since I've had any soda of any kind.
Good for you.
But I stay away from sugar. Sugar's the devil.
That's right.
And all of these chemicals are making us toxic, man.
Yeah.
They
can't eat us out in Alberta.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But no, I hear you loud and clear. I think that I think we need to go back. To me, it's not even so much about capitalism. I think humans need to learn, and this is something we're not taught in school. It's something we're not really taught even by our parents, maybe a little bit subliminally, but we know more about that phone on the table as humans than we do about how to keep our heart beating, right? And that bothers me because that should be something that fundamentally humans know everything about.
Yeah,
is how our bodies work. What are we as a human? How do we function?
That's right.
And how do we be the best version of ourselves mentally, physically, chemically, spiritually, all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's I'm ashamed to say I did not know really the names of the different muscle groups in my body until just really until COVID. In COVID, I had a rough time, and I was physically seriously diminished. And on the comeback from that, of building my body back up again, I learned what this does and what these movements do and what muscles they affect and all that. And I had to laugh. I mean, I had to wait until I was, 69 or 70 years old before I really did any exercise. No, that's not true. I jogged every day for 2 years when I was 27, 28, somewhere in there. And I only missed 30 days in 2 years. And I blew my knee out. One day I couldn't get up on the stage, so I had to stop that. But you know what's so funny? You mentioned potato chips.
Sure.
When I was weighing 280 pounds, about 13 years ago, 14 years ago, that was it. I started losing weight by cutting the potato chips out.
That was my first thing.
Just loved them. Yeah. And amazing how much they put weight on you. I mean, it's like, whoa. And just not eating the potato chips for 13 years has lost me how much weight,
Tons.
So I slowly skimmed down, slowly. Finally, I got skinny enough. You probably had this experience where, like, people don't notice at first. I mean, when you tell people, but you don't see everybody, and they'll go, oh, no, look a little thinner, maybe, your good friend is going to try and encourage you, but then when you get to a certain size, they go, holy crap, what happened? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Did you get that? Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah. And actually it's funny because I had someone the other day say to me, because I've gained a little bit of the weight back. And they said to me the other day, I said, yeah, I think I'm going to cut again. I'm going to cut down, a little 10, 15 so pounds again.
Sure.
Oh, no. Before you were too skinny. I'm like, what? No way, man. For the first time in my life, I had some abs and I was feeling great. And I was looking great. I was feeling great. And health-wise, my mental clarity was awesome.
Sure.
And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel toxic. And so, but I've gained a little bit back and mostly from like cheating. And people are like, well, what do you mean cheating? What's your cheats? And I have a few little, sugar-free snacks and that, but potatoes, I've been having more and more potatoes over the last couple of years.
Just liking them.
And my body doesn't agree with my body. I put too much weight on and I hold it. So I've had to cut out the potatoes again, but not potato chips. Still haven't had those in 6 years. But
are you serious?
Serious.
Oh God!
But it was, for me, it was crazy, man. I used to eat a bag a day. Like it was.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. But I found that if I let myself, first of all, there's two things. If I have, so I'll go. I've got no sugar, right? No sugar. I will eat like a fruit. Like blueberries or something.
I'll do blueberries in a pancake, like an almond flour pancake. That's the most I'll do.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, right. But nothing. And then if it always is the same, I'll break down something's happened, proud of myself. Just finished a project or something's happened. And, what the hell, I'll have, I don't know, what am I thinking? I may break down and get ice cream. That's okay. Really, that's pretty heavy, but nonetheless, ice cream's a bit heavy, but there's smaller things. And I find that's good. If you can break the addiction of it, like it's like, if I start sugar, I'll go for days. Like I'll go for some days before I go, oh, no. And I feel so good the day I don't, right? But if you can do it, chips are easier to talk about. Once in a while, I'll break down.
Sure.
And that's not a breakdown. I want them, and I like them, and I eat them. And if I'm in motion, like if I'm walking, if I'm working out, doesn't mean a thing. You're not.
Yeah, it's all about energy in, energy out, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's why we overconsume food as humans. That's the biggest reason why people gain weight.
Do you walk? You're probably too young
I
to
do.
walk.
Well, I do lot. Like I'm walking every day.
Oh, like when you work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I work long days too, right? Like so, and I'm walking all the time. But it's funny you say that. I'm actually looking. I did a ton of. I've realized after sort of that I'm not really a gym guy. I've sort of finally come to terms with it after 40 years.
I relate.
And so I've decided this year, this past fall/winter, that you know what, I'm going to do activities. So my daughter, who's 5, she got into skiing lessons. So I just said, okay, I'm going to buy a ticket and I'm going to ski, and I'm going to, and so I skied every weekend that she had a lesson. I skied and did that as my winter sport.
Good for you.
And now I'm on the exploration for my summer sport. And one of the things I thought about was walking, running, biking, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
In my neighborhood, because it's a great neighborhood to do it in.
Yeah.
And so, energy in, energy out. If you're going to consume, I fast. So I do usually at least a 16 and 8 fast, some days 20 and 4. And I do that every day, almost every day. I would say probably with the exception of maybe 6 to 12 days a year. And that's been incredible too. So I'm not over consuming food at all. Mm-hmm. So some days I'll have one meal, some days I'll have 2, mostly mm-hmm. one. Mm-hmm. I'll just have a nice dinner. But there are days when I'll do like a lunch, right? Like just a salad with some protein. But, anyway, at the end of the day, I think for me, I'm feeling, really good, like the last 6 years. That's good. But it happened because I was ready for it mentally. And because I did my research. You talked about you going to the library and doing your research. You got to do your research. You really do. You can't, it's like anything else. You can't assume that you know everything, because you don't. No. You got to learn. And that's, I guess, what started this whole thing was, me saying, as humans, we don't have a clue. And we think we do, but we really don't. We really don't know how our bodies work. And the more you learn about it, and the more you learn about things like biohacking and alternative foods and just just eating good quality food.
Yeah. That's pretty important.
It's a funny saying, right? You pay now or pay later.
Yeah.
And later is usually medications and surgeries and all that stuff, right?
This is it. It's kind of unfair to ask you if you're walking, because it just sounds like, just walking, dude. Like, no, I wouldn't want to just walk. You're a young man, but I have found that walking is, for me at my age, and I'm 72, is righteous, also psychologically righteous. But I got strung out in the last few months of walking on a rail trail. That's an old railroad track.
Oh, really?
That's been groomed. It's a flat clay with a little fine gravel on it. And the thing about the rail trail, there's one that goes from Goderich to Guelph. Okay?
Okay.
The thing about the rail trail is the hills go up and down. But the rail trail is like a runway out over the landscape, out into the audience, out over the landscape, out over the hills. It's flat.
Of course.
And so there are grades over a kilometer or so up and down. But I have proudly completed that rail trail. So I've walked from Goderich to Guelph and back. And the and back is because I got to park my car on one concession, walk a concession, a couple of clicks, and then back. That's about a 4-click walk. And so I've walked there and back over the last few months. Yeah.
That's cool.
It is cool. And it's really, despite any other exercise, it's the basic thing of it is it's necessary. I have to do that. Yeah.
We need activity.
Yeah.
Another thing is stretching,
Yes.
My wife's an osteopath, and we talk about this all the time. Yeah, we talk about this all the time.
Sweet.
About she's on me all the time about stretching, and because that's a lot of times when people have low back pain and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You have tight quads, tight like glutes, tight. You're just tight, and especially I don't know. It's not necessarily women or men or whatever, but generally I'm talking from a man's perspective. I mean, we just don't stretch. I don't. And it's funny because I used to, there's this whole thing about the yoga, which I don't necessarily do, although I've looked into it and I've thought about it, but just stretching, just getting on the floor and just stretching is so good for you. Even just laying on your back, just laying.
Your wife knows some awesome stretches, yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're lucky, man.
She shows them to her patients too. Like,
sure.
Because, she does really want to heal people. And that's her thing. Like, she's so passionate about it, just like I'm passionate about music. But yeah, absolutely. She knows all the stretches, and she was a personal trainer for many years too. So she can show them even exercises and stuff that they can do for strengthening.
Yeah, great. That's really great.
So
that's the real problem. Like when you're your age, you can do these things like fasting and stuff like that. I can never do that. Like not in a million years. So I couldn't even contemplate it. I just, I have to have the energy.
Yeah, right.
But it's more, as you get older, the energy exchanges quicker. If you don't exercise, you lose muscle fast. If you exercise, you gain it fast. It's pretty cool. Like it works, right?
It does.
You absolutely can be 80 and build up your biceps. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So that's really nice to know. But all these problems of getting older are not yours now, man. You've got a whole other set of things.
Not now, but it'll. As I've been told, life goes fast and faster as you get older.
That's what my mom said. She said, "I can't believe how fast this is going." Yeah. And she's 78, 80.
Well, I blinked and we're about to head in. We're heading into April. It's like,
yes.
like
I agree with that. Yeah,
it's like, where did the last 3 months go?
Yeah.
But yeah. So just to get back into music for a second.
Sure.
I wanted to bring up that actually, S.A., you brought up some the photos, right? There was some photos that you had. What's this?
Well, this is who stole Bill's jacket and pants, because my jacket doesn't, I'm on the far right.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it today. Oh, I'm sorry. I hit the mic. I was looking at it today and I thought, oh my God, what happened? I'm sure one of those baggy guys on maybe Lauren stole my jacket. Somebody stole my jacket. Anyway, that's me on the right. That's in the band. That's Ed Prinskis beside me, believe it or not.
Wow.
And you will take note that we are the same height.
Yeah.
And after that, Ed just shot up past me for some reason. I don't know what that was. He got a couple inches taller, and I never got up to him.
Never got up there, eh?
That's how young we were, though. Weren't fully grown. That is a photo. That's an unusual. That's nice you're showing that. That's part. We each got our individual pictures taken. I think that was the first good publicity picture Thundermug ever had. And what the guy did was he photographed us in shadow on the one side, and then we stuck the heads together, just the heads in the shot. And I looked for that one, but I couldn't find it. I phoned people, I couldn't find it. And so the dark side of each person's face. 2 guys were photographed, dark side on one side, the other 2 guys, dark side on the other side, so you can put them together so that it's a really nice photo.
That's cool.
But that's the individual photo. And he shot it. All I can remember is the guy said, this camera is the same camera that they're using for on the moon landings, right?
Oh, wow.
Which was impressive in the day. It was a Nikon. And so there it is. And it's very grainy. Made it grainy on purpose. That's all art. That's art. And there I am. I'm 18. And there I am. No, did you see? Lost a lot of weight in this shot.
Yeah.
And that's, I got down to 180 pounds. I was 180 pounds in that shot. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I hit 180 again.
Wow.
And now I'm about 160.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not bad for a
That's
guy
amazing.
who's big all my life. These guys are the same. Well, that's Ed again. You can still see he's taller than me. And and James and myself in a version of Thundermug, which was after the Who's Running My World album, which I recorded in this building.
Yeah.
Oh, this brought back a lot of memories here today.
Did it?
Oh, just being in the parking lot. Oh, yeah, I remember getting my amps out and hauling in.
Yeah.
Just coming upstairs where they had this funny thing called a computer, where they were making the first album cover. They're making an album cover on the computer. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and did a darn fine job, too. That was Brian that did that.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Brian.
Yeah, he did very well.
I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah, me neither. You did good, Brian. And now this is a slightly mutated version where Corey Thompson has come in. This is actually...
that's Corey, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Corey was looking like in the day.
Wow.
Quite slim.
Yeah.
He was...
Quite dapper there, Corey.
Oh, yes. He had the
he's with he's with the fire department now.
He sure is. He made captain.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah, and there I am. And James Corbett with his magnificent sunglasses showing you what we were looking at. And oh my God, the drowned rats. This is us, Larry LeBlanc took that photograph. And he was the liaison in Canada for the, what's the big trade magazine that's got all the charts in it from the States?
Oh, Billboard?
Yeah, he was a Billboard guy.
Yeah.
For Canada, I think. And we're sitting at our kitchen table not long after that picture was taken. Larry goes, well, you guys do know that the last thing the world needs is another rock and roll band. No wonder we didn't like the capitalist part of it.
Yeah.
We just wanted to make music. And we worked really, really, really hard. That was a really, really good band. At its peak, it was eye-poppingly extraordinary. In the context of the day. I remember Bucky Berger, who is Jack Richardson's favorite studio guitar player, was played in a band, and he's told me that, he saw us play. He was there in some opening act somewhere in a little gig, in the old days, and we came and played, and he just went, oh, I wonder what else I'm going to do now. Of course, he carried on became Jack Richardson's favorite guitar player. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
And yeah. So there it is.
Wow. So you're the one thing I wanted to bring up. There's a story that my dad will tell people when he talks about Thundermug.
Yeah.
And you specifically when he talks about you. And I mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, but I'll say it now.
Sure.
And he'll tell people, he'll say, yeah, I was doing this show, and after the show, somebody came up to me and said, he said, hey man, what's Bill got in his rig? What's he got up there? And my dad goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, what's he got on his pedal board? He got all kinds of cool pedals and stuff. And he goes, no man, we just mic'd up his amp. He's just got three things. He's got his guitar, a cord, and his amp. The guy's like, what are you talking about? That's no man. Like he's got to have some.
He was hearing different sounds.
Yeah, he's got to have some effects up to something, right? And like, no man, guitar, chord, amp.
Yeah.
And when my dad told that story the first time I heard it, I didn't quite realize it at the time. And then I went, oh yeah, weird, crazy. And so I'd always meant to ask you about it, but the part of the reason, I guess, as he goes on to tell, the guy thought that you had effects up there because of how you manipulate the guitar. And where does that come from? Is that something you just learned over time? Because I know for you, it sounds like, playing the guitar is art, right?
Yeah.
Like it is. So where does that come from?
Well, I think it's working through pretty crappy technologies through the years. How do you know when you got your sound? When you get your sound, that's a guitar player's nightmare, or joy. It depends. but I think everybody really sweats about it. And how do you know when you got it, and what is it, and all the rest of it? And it was just a slow mutation through the years for me. But I just think that if you wanted to get a different sound, you just have to experiment and try and get a different sound. Also, I do a kind of sawing techniques or bowing techniques with the pick that I'm kind of unaware of.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've half analyzed it.
It's
but,
just natural for you.
well, it's trying to get some different sound, like any way you can with what you got. And I can actually do a pretty good fake bow with the pick, and it leads to a kind of there's chewingness to it, and there shouldn't be. It was just fun to try and fake stuff too.
Sure.
I was listening to a cut that Jim and Ed and I recorded in the very ass end of the actual original Thundermug days, 77 or something, 78. We broke up finally, and I just wanted to. I had heard this a foghorn or something out in the Maritimes. I go wee wee wee. I just want to imitate that, so it's on there. You know what I mean? That's me
cool.
imitating a foghorn and stuff like that. And there's no effects on it. It's just straight. I'm listening to a lot to Jimi Hendrix lately, like a lot, like exquisitely in detail. And many, many, many different live concerts are coming out now. You can hear reasonably well. Man, he's such a puzzle. He had such a great tone, but a lot of the time he just played clean. Like, and then he put the wah-wah in and make it cleaner. Like, what are you doing? It doesn't make sense. You think he's got this great big fat tone, but he actually played fairly crazily clean. Something like, Jimmy, turn that damn wah off, But So anyway, yeah. However that goes. One time I blew out my shoulder rotator cuff. I slipped and I fell into my car, and it was really bad. I couldn't even change the gear in the car.
Oh, wow.
And I played a gig a little while after it, and I was still quite severely wounded. And I thought, I'm sitting there going, oh, look, again, the mic. Look at this, I can move my hands. No, it ought to be okay. I'll do the gig. Yeah, it's good. Oh, no. The first thing I found out was I don't play just with my fingers or my arms. I play with my whole body. Every movement changes angles, does little things.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's interesting. But lately, I've you don't have a pedal board or nothing. Everybody's going. I start objecting. I have a tuner. Come on, give it to me. I have a tuner, and I have a fuzz pedal.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes. I've had that. I first got that idea when I was playing slide about 2005. I have a Big Muff Pie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we sell that here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
great.
the occasional good one. You got to go through 10 of them to find the one that has some upper end tone on it, some harmonical stuff up on top. They occasionally do. And when they do, they're really, really nice. And so I've been using that. So I object. I've got two, tuner and a fuzz pedal.
There you go.
Don't have them on a board yet. But
yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I thought I would bring that story up because that's because it did after he told that story, and I think we got a photo essay of the more recent stuff. So there's that. These were the ones.
Yeah, this is more of the modern. Yeah, there I am, pretty heavy there, eh?
Yeah, well, that's how I remembered you from before.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And then when I saw you at Kellogg's, I was like, "Whoa, lost tons of weight." Go to that photo. There we go.
Hey, Dad.
There's Dad.
Yeah, right on.
Blues Fest 2018. Yeah. That
Is
was
that right?
that was a great time. And that was, you were opening up for, because I know the list you sent me of some of the people you opened for. You were opening for, was it Molly Hatchet that day? I'm trying to think of who.
Not 2018. No, the
No?
Molly Hatchet was way back when it was in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had Molly Hatchet on at the Blues Fest. I just can't remember which day that was, but yeah. But that was
That's a good picture
yeah.
of your dad.
But yeah, he was always a huge fan of you and Thundermug, and so I know when he was putting the Blues Fest together, which he wanted to keep going. But that's another whole conversation.
He sacrificed for that, I understand.
Yeah, well, he did, and a lot of people don't realize, like he didn't pay the company. I was his operations guy. I would start by putting up all the fencing around Harris Park.
Holy.
Myself and some volunteers,
Yep.
and then we would forklift in all the beer, and I would drive the material lift, and my wife would do the volunteers. She would be coordinating the volunteers,
very good
and
for her.
my mom would be volunteering, and
Nice.
Barb Whitney, shout out to Barb and Jim McCormick, because they volunteered too. And so many people that volunteered to make that all happen. And my dad didn't pay himself a dime. The company didn't make anything for putting all that up.
With the PA.
The stage, the PA, everything. We didn't take nothing.
Donated it.
And in the end, he still lost money every year.
Yeah.
And, and he said, the acts are charging, more money than what the amount of people were getting out. He just couldn't get he couldn't sell enough tickets to make it make sense. And there's tons of hardcore blues fans in town that want it to come back. And it's funny because we were chatting on the phone with Jeff. Shout out to Jeff from the Tea Party. We were talking with Jeff, the drummer, and I didn't realize this, but he's involved in the one in Windsor. And he sort of echoed on the phone with my dad, kind of what we were saying is that, the blues thing is really hard. It's hard to get people to come out. That's why a lot of the Blues Fest started doing, more rock acts and stuff.
For sure.
Because, it was hard to get people to come out. And so we tried hard. My dad, tried doing it and would do it again. He's got a show coming up at Centennial Hall that he's doing. But, he really does love the blues music and rock music, and he wants to see it go. But I think I was talking with someone else on the pod a number of episodes ago, and I would love to see young people get back into that music again. I think there's something magical about that style of music that, when you're like, I see how you're passionate you are talking about Jimi Hendrix, and so many years later you're still listening to his stuff. Damien, his son, was just played a gig in Toronto. I saw it on social media. One of the guys from here in town was the opener, so I was looking at it on his social media. And the two, I think it's Damien and what was the other brother? Or the son, sorry, Stephen Marley. So yeah, they were playing, I guess, at a gig in Toronto at History.
Fantastic.
And so the legend lives on, but they're doing their own thing and whatnot. But so many years later, we just got to get more people into that vibe, man, and get back there. I just, because it's such great music. Like when my dad brought that to the park, it was phenomenal. Like the performances were phenomenal, and there was something magic about it. And even bands like I noticed you mentioned that you had opened up for Burton. Burton played that Blues Fest too for my dad, and I had seen him a bunch of different times, different places. I saw him play in Kitchener at the Oktoberfest, and a number of times I've seen him. And he did a thing with Randy Bachman, and they did that thing at the Center in the Square in Kitchener. But that show for me was just magical. There was something about that show, open air, all these people that were just diehard, blues rock fans, and he just went in there and just lit it up. And there was something magical about that performance from him, and cool. Really all of them, like everybody that played that show just did their best to crush it.
For sure.
And it was awesome. And I'm sad that we're not still doing it. But you know, and that's the thing. We were talking about it earlier before we started the podcast about live music venues, right? And I was sort of telling you about some of the stuff that I was aware of with live music venues, but you know, about the insurance and stuff. You know, there being a lack of insurance for bars, for clubs and bars in Ontario, and it's a serious problem. You know.
You know, I'm just going to draw a comparison.
Sure.
Back to the old days. Venues, church basements. There was all kinds of places you could play, all kinds. Now, I don't know what the rules are for insurance and all that now, probably stricter, but there was all kinds in those days. And to give you an idea, we had, I don't know how to explain this, but there was a situation that happened to Jimmy Corbett in Thunder Bay. And there was this like huge bail money thing that had to happen. And Jim's kind of trapped there, and he's coming down to London. It's maybe a Wednesday. No, maybe a Thursday. Thursday, we get the idea that we should have a gig in the park. We just get the idea. We get there should be a gig in the park for him on Saturday. Now, nobody would ever do this now. Think about what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true.
Thursday, I think it was Thursday, we just went to City Hall and asked to speak to somebody who was in charge of the park. Told them the idea, would it be okay? And they went, sure. Printed up flyers, went down to Wellington Square Mall, which is where everybody hung out in the day. Distributed these flyers on Friday. Saturday, 2,000 people.
Wow. That's wild. That would never happen now. I don't even know if you could poster and flyer anywhere where you could attract that many people now. It's crazy. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah. And every band, you know, not every band, but the major bands in town all wanted to play. So that we got a hold of them. So they all wanted to play. So at the end of it, we hooked up all their amplifiers. We hooked up everybody's amp.
Oh, wow,
then we played.
Now I know why they called you the loudest band.
Yeah. And yours truly was quoted on the radio. I'll never forget it. Because we had some very, very fine Lebanese hash, like some of the best I'd ever smoked. And I only lived a block from the park. So we went down there and it was like a wonderland. And then there I am talking on the radio. I'd like to thank the PUC in that. Oh, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So you could do that. We used to have gigs in, like somebody would get the idea earlier in the week that somebody worked at a clothing store. Get the idea, we should have can we throw a gig here? Yeah, sure. Would you guys play? Oh, sure. Absolutely. So come the weekend, packed in a clothing store. Really neat there. It was like,
that's crazy.
Peace and love, you know.
Sure.
Big time. So, but it was also, there was a cohesiveness to that generation, my generation. There was a cohesiveness. And there was probably 40, I won't say 50%, but at least 40% that were way into what we called the movement, the peace, love thing, the hippie thing. It was taken very, very seriously. It turned into political kind of left, stuff as everybody grew up, but it was pretty serious. And nobody could tell us anything because we knew we had a shot at something. And there was a ton of us. There was way more of us than anybody else.
Right.
And in terms of generations at the time. So it was a beautiful thing. And then we come back to now where things are separated. The phone is a very separating thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I know that for myself. I'm actually currently addicted to YouTube.
Is that right, eh?
Is there a what would you call it? Let me see, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, YouTube Anonymous. Is there a YA meeting? Do you know what I mean? YA meetings
Oh,
that we can go to tonight?
I just came off a trip with my father-in-law, and that's all he watches now is YouTube. It's all he watches. And yeah, it's it can become an addiction for sure. I mean, too much of anything isn't good for you. I mean, and it's, things in moderation or sometimes.
Do you get silence much in the day?
Do I get silence?
Yeah.
At night I do. Yeah.
Do you?
Absolutely.
And you relish it? It's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, especially if I meditate and stuff.
Oh, well, yes. Okay, yes. If you're deliberately taking some time, no.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if you aren't, I wonder if people get too much silence anymore. Like, wait a minute, what's wrong? Oh yeah, that thing on my phone. Like, well, what was that show? Oh yeah. I'll have it going while I eat. I'll have it going.
Absolutely. I was speaking of Patrick Duffy again from last episode.
Yeah.
He teaches at Harris Institute and Durham College. And he said on the episode, he said, if he doesn't keep the kids engaged, he'll know, because he goes, the minute that they start to get bored, they pull out their phone.
Yes.
Yeah. In the middle of whatever's going on.
That was exactly my point.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's like, but you need those times where there's silence for what I would call a reverie, where you just kind of like, oh, and then thoughts occur. Usually uncomfortable thoughts. Sometimes uncomfortable thoughts.
Sometimes.
I've got to do this. Oh, I didn't do that. Or, oh, damn, something, I forgot to practice, whatever it is. And then, I don't think my girlfriend and I are getting along, or, all that,
Some of my greatest ideas come to me when I'm in the bathroom, when I'm in the shower, when I'm driving in a car alone.
Yeah, when you have yourself to yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it literally can be, from a as someone who writes songs, from a songwriter standpoint, it can be it's those times. That's why I like going up north to that cottage that we have up north. We call it camp. We have a camp up north, and
That's what they call it.
Yeah, and we love going up there because you're disconnected. The phone doesn't work, so there's no internet, there's no TV, there's no Wi-Fi. It's just you and nature and your thoughts.
Little word on songwriting, and in relationship to this, as you're saying,
Yeah.
I have a problem practicing, because I will get practicing, but then I'll play something like I'm not thinking of it. I'll just play something that's attractive. I'll have to. I'm practicing, but I go to the phone and I dutifully put it down.
Put it down.
Put it down, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm so lucky that way. It irritates me sometimes. But of course, when you're really trying to do something, you won't get anything.
But the funny thing is that at least you're aware of it. Like, you're like, oh, that's an idea. All right, I got to put that down.
Yeah.
Some people, it's gone as fast as it comes, and they don't even pay attention.
Well, that's the problem. Yes, and that's true, and that's a good space. It's a better headspace to be in, that you don't know what you're doing, but then you got to have the recorder on all the time.
Yes,
you got to be doing that. Yeah, and I just want to mention Miles Goodwin has passed away.
Yes.
And we, Thundermug, we did 80 dates with those guys across the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we opened for them 80 dates across the country, and Miles was quite shy in the day, and didn't really say much to him, but played a gig with them maybe 2 or 3 years ago in Oakville. And I finished, and this guy came running into my face, and he's like, oh man, love you. And it was like all complimentary shit. We listen to you on the bus, blah, 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 blah. Great playing. That was Miles.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I'm thinking, you've really changed, man. And we all grew up, I guess, and shyness and hang-ups and kind of, you work
Sure.
through it, right?
Yeah.
And he's now turned into a wonderful diplomat. And but in summer, I'd phoned him because I got pretty excited about a couple of tunes I had, and I wanted to write with him. But he wasn't a co-writer guy. But he decided, no, I want to try co-writing too, right? But co-writing was funny with him because I'll come up with a bunch of licks and send him the licks, and I guess he's going to get melody on it or whatever and all that. And we were doing that when he passed away.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was a shame.
Did any of it get finished?
No. He had plans. What we're specifically doing was writing an acoustic tune for his latest blues album.
Mm-hmm.
So funny because he says to me, "This is going to be my last blues album." Right? I could never say this was going to be my last anything. I would never. I would
almost like maybe he knew something.
Well, it's weird, eh? But he had plans for another. For another type of album, which he also wanted me to be co-writing stuff for because it was rockier.
Do you think you'd ever finish any of that stuff?
Say?
Do you think that you'd ever do anything
with the licks that I sent
with
him?
The stuff that you guys were working on?
Well, yeah. I sent one of them to Joe.
Did you?
Yeah, just see if he wanted to sing on it, if he could come up with something. Joe is my co-writer.
Yeah.
Joe DeAngelis.
Yeah.
And
it'd be cool to finish some of that off. Do something with it.
It'd be weird. Yeah, it's wide open. Anybody could finish it.
Sure.
They're wide open. It's yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I remember when it happened. I made sure right away. I said, we got to put up a post about this online, because we'd done so much work with him and the guys over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, it really affected us. And one of the guys that works here, Boris, who works in London Guitars. He
had a studio, Boris.
Yeah, so Boris. Yeah, Boris was in Blue Bones, right?
Yeah,
and him and Gord prior together, and Gord knew Miles really well, and so did Boris. And I remember I came into work that day, and Boris was like, "Hey, you heard Miles passed, eh?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I had saw it literally in the morning on my phone, and I was just like, "Wow, this is crazy." And so yeah, that kind of. That took me for a few minutes. I was like, wow, this is wild. And, because there's a guy I would have loved to have had on the podcast, right?
Oh, he'd been great too.
And I think that's, one of the reasons, like you mentioned earlier, about people passing away in their 50s. And, and for me, that's a big reason why I'm doing the show is to get all these stories and the journey and just to get it all down. And because, there's always been these opportunities in other countries for people to tell their story and to inspire people. But, I know we're just the population of Texas up here in Canada, but, we got some magic up here, man.
Big time. There's massive great artists here. And there's all I'm glad you're doing it. It as you well should. I'm glad I'm here. Although, even though, we did kind of touch on everything. Mm-hmm. It really feels like we didn't really dig into anything. Well, you know what I'm saying? So
feel free to dig in on anything you want, man.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we did everything that we ran it from 5 years old to 72. That's all I got. I'm not 73 yet, so I'll let you know how we got a tour this summer coming up.
Oh yeah,
so that's good.
Where are you guys touring?
Well, it'd be out west.
Out west, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What, how do you, so I got a couple questions for you.
All right.
There's been some people who've talked about this on the podcast, to me privately.
Sure.
That have sort of said that they think that, that when the smoking bylaws came in, that affected the live music scene. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I laugh because it affected my live music scene. That's what I'm going to die of, COPD. Mm. And I got that from 25 years in smoky bars in a popular band.
Wow.
Packed. People, you're playing away. And
yeah.
I remember standing in a room where the vent fan for the entire room was behind my head.
Oh, really?
Everybody's smoking. And I literally thought to myself, okay, Ben, you're hurting yourself now.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, I'm in my mid-60s, get a test done. Oh, and it's a progressive disease.
Wow.
So it's funny to think that, isn't it? It's funny to think. I don't want to think that my fans killed me.
Well, no, and I mean, nobody.
I don't want to think that.
No, nobody would have even thought that at the time.
No.
You were thinking about it.
I knew I was getting hurt. Just in that one gig.
Sure, yeah.
Just because it was exceptionally gross. And I'm exercising and receiving at velocity that cigarette smoke as well. If I wasn't the singer, I'd probably be a little better off.
Well, yeah.
But I don't have an animosity there. I don't have like, oh, damn. I just think, oh, it's one of those, it's an industrial accident. It's a workplace thing, slow disaster over 25 years. No, cigarette smoking and, yeah. Well, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on all that. I think that probably the ridiculous, insane marijuana driving laws we have, which are only there to save the police face. Mm. They're not in reality. Did you know that?
No.
Oh, during COVID, I wrote a documentary on all the times that I came in contact with the police during Prohibition to do with pot.
Oh, really?
18 separate incidences. And I did deep research into the RCMP, their relationship to the war on drugs. Anyway, I came across a study, 1997, Diane Riley made this report to the Senate of Canada.
Wow.
Because the Liberals were upping the laws one more time, making them stiffer one more time in late 97, and while making noise that they weren't. And nobody liked it in the community that is lobbying for pot smokers. Anyway, in there was revealed, I didn't even know this, and I am, one of my claims to fame is that I'm part of a small group of people from London, Ontario called Hemp Canada that did a long way to change public opinion on marijuana by disseminating information. Mm. And before the computer, newsletter.
Yeah.
Send in money for the stamps. We'll send you the newsletter.
Wow.
Kids were all of a sudden doing high school projects on hemp and things like that. It was that era. It was the 90s. Anyway, this is one of my claims to fame. That group of people's unsung heroes because we did actually change public opinion. We had CSIS on us. It was an amazing experience. True grassroots movement.
Congratulations, by the way, for doing that. That's wow.
Thank you. Well, that's a very cool thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank the others. I was the third guy in. Anyway, so it was revealed in the 1997 study that a driving test that I'd never ever heard about. And we did deep research. Like the Hemp Canada was 2,000 studies about pot in the University of Western Ontario. Get them out, read them, research them, correlate them, see what the heck's going on. So we would know more than the police about pot. So they couldn't lie to us because they lie constantly. And the study was done by the freaking federal U.S. government.
Really?
And their conclusion was the same as all the other driving tests that have ever been done. We see no reason, I'll roughly quote, we find no reason that marijuana would be a danger to the public if people were driving, and et cetera. The biggest study was hidden. And I never found out about it. It was 97, and I found out about it in 2020. So there is no study that exists unless it was bought and paid for.
Right.
We need this result. Here's your money. Scientists, give us this money. The drug enforcement agency used to do that in the States all the time. That same scientist was in Carleton University saying that if you smoke pot when you're pregnant, you're going to harm your kid. And there is no definitive proof of that, but it's a rumor they keep throwing up.
Sure.
Those things still come up because some states still have marijuana illegal. So they have to justify it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for all those people, those unfortunate few, 1,000 or 2,000 or 2,500, however it is, who got caught with pot in their car and charged, and their vehicle was taken away from them for a year, and the police phoned the insurance company, that is just to save face for the police. Because we couldn't just say, oh, it's okay. But if you don't believe me, if you don't, think about this. From 1970 to 2017, there was approximately, I will say, the CBC said in 2005, 25% of the population smoked pot, which is roughly 8,000 Canadian, 8 million Canadians.
8 million, yeah.
So we have rough, how many of those are drivers? As the years go by, they're all going to become drivers, most of them. Driving during Prohibition, smoking pot for 50 years. Do you think we might detect, a problem with driving and smoking during that 50 years? It's the biggest real life experiment that ever happened.
Sure.
My friend Gibby Lacasse, drummed for the Stampeders for a little bit, drove to work every morning in Toronto down the 401. He was smoking his morning joint. He, being a brilliant man, says to me one day, he says, I got thinking about it. I wonder if anybody else is smoking their morning joint. So he started looking. And he saw many other people smoking their morning joint. Wow. Many. He estimated 25%.
There you go.
That he saw.
Sure.
Others you wouldn't see. There'd be,
Yeah, right.
So the biggest driving experiment in terms of driving and pot has already happened. And you can't make it
unpublished.
Yeah, it's weird, eh?
Yeah.
Except for a 1997 Senate report, that I had to dig for like 90. Oh, finding the bust stats was phenomenal as well. Mm. I will say this one other thing. This is probably the most important thing. I was in Edmonton, and it was maybe the day that I think pot was made legal. It was packed. There was 400 people in this club. It was the afternoon jam. And I just happened to say over the microphone, when I first smoked good pot, I knew I'd found a friend for life. Mm. I knew it almost instantly. I knew I'd found a friend for life. This is for a 15-year-old that's had a rough childhood. And, there's something good in life. There's something good. There's something good in life that's real, and so I said that, and after the gig, a guy came up to me, an older guy like myself, and he said, I couldn't believe that when you said that. He said, because that's exactly what I thought too. Mm. Then you have the situation of, why has Bill had 18 different incidences with Canadian police over marijuana? Oh. How many of the bus stats, 2,442,000, mostly young people, got criminal records?
Really?
And when you read about what happens to you when you have a criminal record,
yeah, it's not good.
It's not good.
No.
And for small amounts of marijuana. So Some of them, like me, got busted several times.
Like, is there any retribution for that now?
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Oh, you're brilliant. You're a brilliant man. And there's a special group of us that, for some reason, my 30,000 hours of practicing on the guitar, it didn't inhibit my fine motor movements, marijuana. Didn't inhibit my concentration. Didn't inhibit my ability to write a documentary and do deep research into the RCMP. It didn't inhibit my ability to get 130 some odd songs published on recordings.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It didn't inhibit my ability to speak. Well, sometimes. But anyway. So if you're one of those persons, right, just know you're not alone. We're a special group of people. We got abused in the Prohibition, highly abused, because we have a natural proclivity. It just doesn't do the same thing to me that it does other people. That's just as simple as that. It just suits my complex PTSD that I have. It just suits all that beautifully. It's a little lift, but you don't solve your problems like alcohol.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't solve your problems. And that's good. You have to solve your problems.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't just go, I'm going to smoke a joint and fade away. No, the problem's still there. No, it's going to bug you more maybe. You know, it's just, problems don't go away. Now, it's okay to, when you're in that mode at the end of the day where you're meditating or you're watching something inane, to get yourself into that frame of mind to go to sleep. But anyway, so people who have had more trouble than usual because they have the proclivity, genetic proclivity to where marijuana is a very, very good thing for them, know that I'm pissed off. I want a suit against the federal government. I think it would be very easy to get a class action suit against the federal government for harms done during marijuana prohibition. I would say that it should be even in classes and categories. These people like myself who were repeatedly busted surely must come in a certain category. People who were busted once but then had trouble on job applications and they had to dance around it,
Oh, even crossing the border, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, even crossing the border.
Yeah.
What do you think it did to my career in the U.S.?
Well, that's it.
It's it entirely. So these things need to be compensated for. The federal government spent from Mulroney to Trudeau, approximately somewhere between $12 and $15 billion was spent, giving money specifically for drugs to police departments. In Canada, police department would get $400 million or something like that out of it. 85% of that money was spent busting young people for small amounts of pot. 15% was spent on all other drugs and things because pot was low-hanging fruit.
Sure. Yeah, right.
The history of the RCMP and their attitude towards pot smokers is phenomenal.
Well, I'm sure, and I'm sure at that time, it was more common to be a pot smoker than it was to be doing hard drugs. Like, I have to imagine that. Like, the access and the acceptability of it within social circles for you to be a pot smoker probably was, I didn't live during some of that time, but I would.
Well, I'll tell you then.
Yeah, go ahead.
And if you're at a party, it was pot.
Yeah.
Hash. In Canada, we had lots of really, really, really good hash. And strong. Don't let anybody tell you that it's way stronger now. No. No. Sorry. You can't actually make pot stronger without making it into something else. And they haven't done that yet. They're just crossbreeding.
Sure.
Good Lord. It's just a plant. Yeah, there's a lot of so many factors to it, but getting together a suit I really feel would be fairly easy. I don't think anybody would need to be convinced. As I say, people who are busted a lot, people who are busted maybe once. But then what about the families of the people who are busted?
Right. Absolutely.
Harms done by marijuana prohibition.
Yeah.
My son was busted. The family was screwed up. We had to spend money on lawyer. It was a drag. It was, shocking, horrifying, terrifying. That's the whole idea of it, to terrify and threaten. I'd like to see the 15 billion come back to the people that really should be paid compensation for it. I'd also think it'd make a great point worldwide. It would make a great point to the countries that have not legalized it yet.
And if people wanted to reach out about that, is the Hemp Canada thing still going on?
No, the suit is in my brain. It's in my brain. Long have I wanted to get a YouTube channel together. I have one, but it's not a broadcast channel. It's just a music channel.
Sure.
It's just got vids on it. It's nothing. But I've really been wanting to do that. I really, really, really want to do that because I got a lot to say on a whole bunch of stuff. All this stuff I've studied all my life.
Right.
The cult business, on and on, whatever's going at the current moment. But there's so many people screaming on YouTube, man.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think what we're doing here is probably more appealing, more accessible at this moment in time.
Well, it's real.
Yeah.
It's not like you were talking about it earlier, right? Where, you're listening to people on television now talking out the side of their mouth. They're not telling the truth.
It is shocking.
And it doesn't matter what your politics is. It doesn't matter what country you're from.
That's right.
We all see it. And the people who are perpetuating it, either creating it or perpetuating it, doesn't matter. I don't know what they think is happening in the world, but we see it. We see what you're doing, and we're not subscribing.
Yeah, I feel that. People really want to get along. I think this is hurting a lot of people in a lot of ways.
It's creating divisiveness and polarization.
Did you lose any relationships in the COVID?
Yeah.
So did I. I lost two family relationships.
I think a lot of people did.
Three. I lost three.
Have they come back?
Not yet.
That needs to happen somehow, some way.
I was thinking,
if you can get along with the guy in Alberta,
then I can get along with anybody. Right? No, he's a sweetheart.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? People like Miles show us that, right? Like one day you're here and the next day you're gone.
That's very, and he had no warning of it. He didn't tell me anything anyway.
So, when I hear things like that, like especially family members or really, really close friends, and I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
This is a common thing we all share. I'm sure all of us listening to this, somewhere along the lines in the last 3 years, we lost people in our lives due to this divisiveness that we talk about.
Yeah.
We got to get over it. So we got to find a way to coexist again and to have the good times because eventually those times are gone.
Oh yes, it slips by, as we were saying earlier as well. Yeah, I agree with that. I have, for the two out of the three of them, I have thought pretty hard about what I should do, right? But then days go by and you go like, oh, I didn't phone them again.
Yeah.
It's been now two years and a bit, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really tough one. Those relationships would not have gotten lost if it hadn't been at least for my particular circumstances and the COVID thing. And I worked 2 days in 2 years as well.
Yeah, wow.
2 years, yeah. I had 2 gigs in those 2 years.
Yeah, that was a rough time for the music industry. We were one of the first to go down and one of the last to come back.
We haven't recovered.
I don't think so.
No.
I think there's major, parts of it that still haven't recovered. And I mean, we'll grind it out as we always do, and we'll come back in some way, but I don't know if it'll ever be the same.
Well, yeah, again, there was a time when just being good meant a lot, Now it means that you can get on the playing field.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
No, you got to be
anything
great.
past that, right?
You got to be great now. And again, technology. You're on YouTube. You see it. You're seeing concerts that are phenomenal. That are huge production from all over the world on YouTube.
Sure.
So now young people, or people of any age for that matter, they sort of have access to that too. So now, what is their perspective today of a great performance or a great show relative to 30 years ago?
Well, you got to get 84,000 people in a stadium for starters,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. You know, there's a show. I'm going to see a show coming up in when is that show? I don't even know. It's Kenny Chesney, country guy.
Sure, yeah.
Playing at Ford Field, and it'll be jammed.
Yeah.
I saw him play in Nashville at the Nissan Stadium, and it was the most at that time. I think Ed Sheeran now has the record, but at that time, back in 2018, he held the record for the most people ever in that stadium in Nashville.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was there, and I was in the second row.
Whoa!
And it was, yeah, my wife had gotten me these dream tickets, these VIP tickets.
Are you a major fan of this guy?
And well, I really loved his music. I'd never seen him. I never seen him play live.
Yeah.
And but I was a big fan of his music,
Right
and so anyway, we went to the show. But it was just the energy. Even if you're not a Kenny fan, the energy in the building was electric. Like, it was just phenomenal when you get that many people all there for the right reasons.
Yeah, they want to hear the music from the guy
and
they love.
it just was on fire. And he's running around the stage, and he's in great shape, and he's putting on a phenomenal show. The band's smoking. He had some killer openers, Old Dominion and a few others. But it was great. But I think that those shows at that level, I mean, it's a lot, man. There's a lot that goes into that, and to make that happen.
Many people.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we do some of those kind of shows. My brother Kyle does, some of the really big stuff that we do as a production company.
Yeah.
It's why we do it. We love doing some of those shows where the energy is electric.
Yeah, no kidding. That's the best.
It's the best.
And then the PA and the production is such a major part of that. And of course, it doesn't mean much without the band. And when you get those two elements together, the band and the production, oh my God.
Yeah, it's magic.
It is magic. It's
totally
actual magic.
It is. We went and saw the Eagles. They're just the tour that's just ending now. And it was funny because my brother was supposed to go to the show, and my dad ended up coming instead. Something came up for my brother, and it was meant to be. It's one of those things where everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
And my father came to the show in Detroit, and it was they said it was going to be the last tour, but who knows if that's true or not. Maybe they'll tour again. But we went to the Detroit show, which is Glenn Frey's hometown, and his son obviously has been playing in the band for a couple of years, and Vince Gill as well, sort of trying to fill in that gap for where Glenn used to sit. And so it was an especially electric show because it was in Glenn's town, and because his son was on stage and the family was there, and so the show was electric. It was just phenomenal. But they really did. I'd seen him a few times now with Vince, and they really did nail it. And my dad came back and wrote on Facebook. He said, that was the best show I've ever seen.
Sweet.
And I'll probably never see a show like that again. Because for him, he's looking at it from a slightly different lens. Not only is he looking at the showmanship and the music and how they nailed all the parts and just the interaction with the crowd, but he's also looking at the crew and the production and the camera angles and the lighting guy and the sound system and how it sounded and just everything, right? And I agree with him. I mean, they really did nail it that night. It was flawless. And so, but that magic doesn't, that takes a lot to put that together. And it's funny for me, my current playlist, it's 50% blues. It's 50% blues and blues rock. It really is. and Jimmy's in there, and there's all kinds of acts in there, you know. But I'm digging that stuff now, right now, man. There's a time for that stuff, and we need more of that right now. So, you know, if I can get Bill Durst out playing any more gigs around here, I'm gonna do it.
Oh, well, I'd be glad to do it. As I think we mentioned this already, it's just not playing enough, you know. It's always the wintertime thing. It's always the time to write and do record and do.
So, are you doing solo stuff now? Is that what you're
No. I'm playing in a 3-piece band with Joe.
Yeah.
Well, we will occasionally do duos.
Okay.
We are doing a duo for the Kitchener Blues Fest coming up in just a few days. April 13th. Fundraiser for the fest, right?
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
We're also playing the fest as well this summer, which is good. Mostly, just doing the 3-piece thing. And the heart of the work will be for a month or a month and a bit out west this summer.
Okay.
Where we will headline a couple of festivals, and it'll be great.
I got 2 more questions for you.
Uh-oh.
So, is there anything you would have done differently?
That's a tough one, eh? Drinking and recovery from alcoholism and AA and all that stuff gets you a perspective. And no, I think, like, if, you know, sometimes I go, oh, geez, I wish I'd been, you know, the band had been more successful, because I see guys buying houses and stuff like that, and I didn't get to do that. But then I thought, well, for sure, and this is for sure, I'd be dead. If I had more money, I wouldn't have made. I doubt if I'd made it through. I couldn't have withstood it. Okay, so that's good. I'm not dead now.
You're not dead.
That's positive.
Yeah.
And so what would have changed? No, you know, when you ask a 72 let me see. Yeah, I got a ton of regrets. Like, you know, I wish I'd been more. I wish I'd made more friends. I had an opportunity to make friends of a lot of people that would be very, very interesting. And I didn't put myself forward. Whether we would have become friends or not, I don't know. But I didn't put,
Sure.
You know, I wish I'd learned diplomacy sooner. That's for sure. And I just don't mean being polite. I mean, there's a higher level of diplomacy, right? I don't know, you know, Brian Howe, singer for Bad Company, you know, and playing a gig at the Park, you know, and Bad Company's playing one year down there, and I'm playing my set, and I look down, and there's Brian Howe. And he was just standing right in front of me the whole set.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing? You're Brian Howe. What's going on? And his trailer was just around the side of the stage. So I get off the stage and I go by him. He looks at me. He says, I was looking at him. I said, I saw you. He says, man, you really love what you're doing, don't you? And I go, yeah. Don't we all? Like, what? Yeah, you know, yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And just that fact that he would take the time, like, I immediately thought there's something different about that guy.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was an AA guy, to tell you the truth. He just had a higher level of diplomacy. The drummer for Little Feat, is it Haywood or Haywood? Is it Richie Haywood or Hayward?
Haywood, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I met him at the festival in Windsor.
Yeah.
We opened for them. And we're talking away, and I'm thrilled because Jim Corbett would be so jealous that I'm talking to this guy, because he just loves Little Feat, right?
Sure.
And I told Richie that. And okay, that's great, right? And so then I'm talking to a bunch of other people, and there's, you know, we're just backstage milling around shit, you know. And there's a bunch of people, and then I see a guy's breaking through this crowd, and it's coming towards me. And it's Richie.
Oh, wow.
And he just sticks his hand and he says, "Pleasure to meet you." And I'm like, Okay. That's a level of person that I want to emulate. I want to emulate that. The Brian Howe, the Richie there. I was, I get tongue tied around people that I freak out about, it's just like, oh, that's nice. So what you're doing? Oh, I'm playing, and just, but I wish I'd been a little more outgoing and more diplomatic. I've learned that diplomacy now.
Sure.
Not that I'm brilliant enough to employ it all the time when I should, but I've learned it at least. And I'm not sorry. I'm not a capitalist. I'm not sorry about that. I'm glad about that. I think it's given me a lot better life, or a life maybe, because again, in the old days, if you had it taken off, the opposite of not controlling your hype and your business guys are in a room controlling, which moves is next,
Yeah.
The opposite of that is you better play, you better keep on the road, you better keep her going while you can, because that's all you got.
Yeah, right.
Playing live is all you got. A lot of musicians, you know what, another huge thing I learned, this would be the opposite of regrets, would be you have to go out and play. Like, people don't even know I go out west, and I for the last dozen years I've played out there a huge amount. When I say out west, I mean the western part of Canada, Alberta centric, and I'm a person out there. I'm this guy that plays, and I'm exotic because I don't live there, and all the rest of that stuff, right? And so bands have to do that. Yeah. Bands have to go out and play. Go out and play. Young bands, especially before you get all tied up and all the rest of that. Well, no, tied up isn't the right word. Before your interests, expand past the band. While you're in the band mode, go out and play. Yeah, right. Play as much as you can.
Well, that was going to be my last question is, what advice do you have for people today that are in music? And that would be one of them. That would be one of the things, is go out and play.
Yeah, totally. My advice would be, get in a groove, sure, you're going to get in a groove that your friends like and all the rest of that. You're going to be doing music that, you're sharing with your age group or whatever. That's good, but really stubbornly just do your own music. I don't know how to advise on capitalism because I'm not a natural capitalist. I do notice that people who had success. Mm-hmm. So with less talent than I have, I'm sorry to say, but it's true. And that's a little chagraining. It's not a regret though. It's just a little stingy.
I think that comes ironically because some of that is, a lot of that's being taught pretty well, that side of it. I think that comes a little easier. I think what you're talking about is harder, right? Like the non-capitalist approach of just focusing on your own art. That's actually harder for people to do now with technology more than ever before. That is harder for people to do at a young age now. I think, my opinion. So I think you're onto something in terms of creating some great music.
It's like what originality? What is it? It means that you're going to write your own songs, but you want them to be good, but they're going to be in a genre, and they're really going to be heavily borrowed from the genre.
Sure.
But you want to be original. Some people are violently original. I know a guy in Kitchener, Mike, who only does instrumentals. Mm. Don't have a vocal mic. Well, they have a mic to introduce, so I can talk to the audience.
Yeah, sure.
But they only play instrumentals. And he's done that for years, and he just stubbornly only plays instrumentals. He's way into it.
Wow.
And they're serious.
Wow.
But wow, that's he's non-capitalist. He's way non-capitalist. Yeah. But he's really original as well.
That's cool.
And it depends on are you an artist or are you a capitalist artist? Capitalism, you have to live in the time that you're born in. You have to live in those days. You can't suddenly change everything. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to learn how to deal with that, which I have. But then You're only young and hot usually once.
Usually once. Sometimes there's a resurgence or
Well, I've had a resurgence.
There you go.
Honestly, I have, but it's not young and hot. And when you're young and hot, and kids get excited, and you get people coming in.
oh, you get 2,000 people in a field in a day. Remember?
In Victoria Park.
There you
yeah,
go.
Yeah. But that's the times too, eh? That's the times. When you heard it, that was the thing. It was like word of mouth was big. And, yeah. But if you are young and hot, go for it. Definitely press it out. But play. Play as much as you can. What did I thought Malcolm Young had it pretty good. He says, we didn't really, we're not really a commercial band. We had, a hit, they had their hit, really the big one. Yeah. And said, but we constantly toured. So we always had people. He says, the guys that had the hit, would be playing to venues that weren't, spectacular venues that really weren't full. They weren't as good as AC/DC was doing because they didn't tour. So touring van versus magical hit, star over, well, not overnight, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
You gotta, it's best to have both if you can, but if you've only got one tour.
Yeah, create that connection with the fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Personal connection.
Definitely.
Yeah, and people saw you that one year, they like you, they want to see you again. Yeah. And then what's happened? Do they have any new stuff? Are they old? Are they boring? Oh, one guy's sitting in a chair now. I guess they're getting older. Well, Joe DeAngelis.
Joe, yeah.
Joe's sitting.
Oh, yeah, Joe's sitting. That's right.
Yeah, he is sitting, yeah.
Because I remember at the Kellogg show, I saw that, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a back thing that's it's not his fault or anything. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And but he himself has just had a nice renaissance lately health-wise, and he's going to the gym and all that stuff. So,
oh, wow.
But that's what you have to do when you're an older guy. You have to. There's the difference, Ryan. There's the difference. When you're older, there's no choice. Oh, you do have a choice. You can just sit with no muscles and grunt and groan and complain and probably pass away a little sooner than you should have. Or you can, get out and walk from Goderich to Guelph.
Wow. You actually walk from Goderich to Guelph?
That's just sinking in, is it?
I'm like, wait a minute. I knew you said the track runs from Goderich to Guelph, but I didn't realize you walked all the way there.
Oh, I didn't get that across? 250 Ks, my man.
Wow.
Started at probably July, August. Then the winter came, so I had to wait. This is a mild winter. So I'm looking at the calendar going, oh my God, I might be able to just get a little past. I might be able to go from Linwood to like Wallenstein, or I'm going for Elmira, but I don't think I'll make it there. Yeah, no, seriously, I did. I walked, I went out and I parked my car. I walked down 2 kilometers on the track to the next concession. That's enough. Walk back. That's 4 kilometers, right? 4. And that's the way I did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's pretty amazing, actually. I don't know if I would walk that far. That's pretty wild. But I will one day.
Well, you see, I ran jogged for a couple of years in my late 20s, and that eventually wears on you just a bit too much.
Yeah.
And I'm just a naturally heavier guy. I'm not a light guy that, those skinny guys that run,
Sure.
And so the walking is good, but oh my God. Well, you're on a flat track. When it's flat and it's just flat,
mm-hmm.
and you're going to go, oh, this track's a little longer. Now you're going to go 4.8 clicks all total. And that's a headspace. It's psychological because the walking isn't that difficult.
No.
It's just...
Yes, that's true.
It's psychologically daunting, so you have to be careful about how you're thinking,
Well, that's like a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
95% mental.
In August, the trail is lined with apple trees.
Oh, wow.
Well, all year round, but in August, the apples are coming out. September, you can walk down a section of trail and just go, oh, what kind of apple do I want today?
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Oh my God. And you're walking, and it's out in the country, so it's fresher air than town.
Sure.
And tremendously beautiful things on the track. Sometimes staggeringly beautiful. I photograph a fair amount on the track.
Do you ever get any music ideas out there?
No, it might cross my mind about lyrics.
Yeah.
But there's too much going on. It's more of an input thing because it's just so absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like a recharge.
You're in a field. You're not on a roadway. You're walking. It's as if you're walking through the fields. You know, when you're driving, you go, "Oh, that looks neat over there. That'd be fun to kind of walk over it." You know, in your head, you kind of go,
"Sure,"
and you explore it. You know, but there you are. You're in your field. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And there's rail trails close to London. There's one that runs north of Woodstock. That's a really nice one. It's not that long. Hickson to Woodstock. There's another one farther north. For Londoners, you know that Woodstock one would be good. There's just got to be rail trails around here because there's all kinds of old tracks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
cool.
Yeah, and geology is one of my. I'm a geology nut.
Right on.
Face of the mother, Ryan. Knowing the face of your mother, the earth. Why is that hill there and not over there? How did that hill get there? How did that ridge get there? So now I know. I studied it for years and years now.
Ah, that's so cool.
Yeah. You know, it's all glaciation and all the rest of that stuff. All around here where we are, it's brand new landscape. It's only 10,000 years old, 11,000 years old.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
If you go to New Mexico, you're looking at a landscape there that's a couple of million years old. The rocks, the granite rocks, wherever there was seams in them, are cracked and they're rounded off. It looks like piles of rounded boulders where it was one just mass before.
Absolutely.
That's how old it is.
Wow.
We don't see that.
No,
because the glaciers scraped off all that stuff, and yeah, there's a whole. It's
a whole other world, man.
Yeah, knowing what you're looking at. Yeah, that's why I'm thrilled, and I also love photography. I have a really nice camera and all that, and so I'm done. I mean, I'm either looking at something that's phenomenally beautiful, or I'm studying the nature of the land.
Absolutely. And I do the same thing, like I say, when I go up north.
Oh,
it's just, yeah, you can't help it.
Very lucky for that, man. Can you imagine that? No, most people don't get that. Think about that.
No, and it's funny because even some of the people that I bring from the city down here, I bring them up there and they're just blown away. Like people who you wouldn't even think are into that.
Yeah.
They just freak right out.
Just come alive.
Oh yeah, because it's natural for us, right? Up there, like everything comes naturally. Like
I like your use of the word real.
Yeah.
You know, that's funny to hear you say that. And, you know, when I was your age, we didn't use the word real. We just, because everything was real.
Right. Right.
Do you know? We didn't say, you know, the real politician or the real thing. It's terrible, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that have lost themselves and they just create this fantasy world of I'm happy and I'm doing great, but really it's just another version of yourself on a social media platform.
You're kind of floating along.
Yeah.
With an image of yourself. I mean, everybody does that, but you know, you could post this image up now. But
you know, the thing is, are you by doing all that, is that your reality? Like, is that your reality? Your reality is a fake reality, right? Because you're not driven to actually make it real. You know, like when you go up there, you're forced to make it real. You have no choice, right? Your phone doesn't work. There's no one else up there but you and the animals.
If you want action, you're going to talk to a person.
Like you got to talk to a person. Yeah. You got to go. You want activity. You got to go out and swim. You got to go out and fish. You got to go out and walk nature. You know,
you need somebody else there just to say, "Holy crap, this is phenomenal."
Yeah.
You could think it to yourself if you're there by yourself,
Sure.
but you need people to share.
You need that connection. So anyway, where can people find your music?
Okay, well, so BillDurst.com has a store on it, and you can peruse that. It's the CDs are for sale there. The ones that are, we have two actually that are depleted at this point, which is where you want to be. But then, so that's good. There are several for sale there, and I have almost everything up on the Spotify.
Okay.
We didn't talk about Spotify, but I thought Steve. Oh damn! I can't remember his last name. He's a great guitar player. Plays by himself from Montreal. Mm-hmm. Nice man. He just said, I heard him say to a crowd, he says, you can get 100,000 plays on, whatever on Spotify and you get a check for $6. So please buy the CDs of all the artists that are here today because we need gas money.
Yeah. It's totally true though. It is totally true. I mean, I'm a Spotify user for my podcasts and stuff.
Sure.
But I still buy CDs and vinyl.
You don't have to apologize.
I don't.
I'm just kidding.
No. I still buy CDs and vinyl. I do. But yes. So Spotify, BillDurst.com.
Yeah. And I guess that's about it. I am playing in the summertime. I'll be playing in Kitchener. Don't know the exact day, but it's the Kitchener Blues Fest.
Yeah.
Be playing out west in the summer. Late June, I believe, or around July the 1st.
Do you post all these dates on the website?
They're posted on. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Bill Durst, a musician on Facebook, is a good source of information.
Okay, cool.
And the website's a moderately good source.
Okay,
mostly for background.
Cool.
YouTube, Bill Durst is really where the gigs are posted.
Oh, okay.
Really where it is at, I would say.
And should we be keeping an eye out for the Bill Durst YouTube channel coming up, or what? You gonna do it?
Well, you really got me thinking. My juices are flowing here today. We talked about that. One great thing to do with it would be to organize the marijuana smokers and a suit against the government. I think it would be ideal for that. Ideal. I've gone so far as to talk to lawyers. I've gone so far as to talk to. I have a list of lawyers in Toronto that were recommended to me, and the law firms can handle millions of applicants for class action lawsuits.
Wow. Well, could happen. Sounds like it could happen.
It could happen.
There you go.
Anyway,
thanks for coming on, man.
I'm so pleased to be on this channel, and I congratulate you on it, Ryan.
Thank you so much. And thanks for coming on. It means a lot to me that you came on, man.
Well, I super appreciate it. It means a lot to me, too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode with Ryan and Bill. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Music City Live. If you liked this episode, like the video. And for more clips and episodes, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to join the conversation by commenting below and visit us at musiccityliveshow.com.